So what's going to happen, just so you know where these marks are going, is that first of all, you'll bring the ruler up to the top. Then you bring it down and you look for that first mark. Then I'm going to draw a horizontal line that goes to that diagonal, stops at the first mark, picks it up again, and goes to this diagonal. Then I bring the ruler down, I look for the next mark, stop at this line, and then you just keep turning your paper around looking for these marks. Little measuring. So I first learned yantra making, yantra worship, with Harish Johari. So he really taught me everything about constructing yantras. This is before I learned the Sri Yantra. So that's how I learned how to do all these gates like this. So let's see. Same method. You go to the edge, you come in, you look for one line. Look for the next line. This can be a little tricky when you first do it, where to end the lines. You can always erase. So just go ahead and keep your ruler parallel to the edge. That's the most important thing. And I might just draw the other edge while I'm at it. I'm also checking to see if my ruler is centered. Same thing here, go to the top, come down, keep the ruler parallel. So we're going to draw one line. And just imagine we're going to be painting these or coloring these. This actually is going to be a drawing video. I'm not going to do painting on this one. But you are welcome to color your yantra any way you like. I will show you the colors that Harish Johari first taught me. I'll put a picture of that at the end. To balance out the chakras, he had that color scheme. But if you look in the ancient texts, I have different quotes from different texts. It's remarkable how many different color schemes you'll see for the Sri Yantra. So for that, I say maybe you can experiment, see which colors feel good for you. Maybe in future videos, we'll look at some of the colors. A lot of them are named after flowers, which we might not even have in this part of the world. All right, so that's the idea. So go ahead, use your little template, something to measure off these widths, and then draw the lines. Once you have your gates, you're ready to keep going with the circles. So as you noticed, while I was doing the gates, I drew one outer circle. It's nice if the circle just touches the gates. So sometimes midway through the gates, I'll just draw one circle. But now I'm going to actually officially come back to the circle part. So in some yantras, you have one band, one outer band in the Sri Yantra. So that's how I was first taught it. Put one outer band. However, as I've continued to study it, I see there's a couple of ways of doing it. And sometimes it's to do with the gunas, sometimes it's called the ring of fire. So depending on what you might be studying, it might be called different things. And then there are 3 rings here. So I'm actually going to make sure I have 4 so I could paint them. And before I do this, I like to mark it out. So I'll do 1. And I'm just eyeballing this. I think they're a little bit smaller, tiny bit closer together than the gates, these 2 lines. Okay, but that's kind of beautiful. And it's going to be a size that you can paint. So you mustn't make them too small, otherwise you won't be able to fit your paintbrush in there. One, 2, and then this one. So it's actually 4 circles altogether. And when you paint them, it'll look like 3. The colored picture I'm going to have at the end of this video will show you the colors you can use if you're thinking about the gunas here. And then we're going to divide this by 2. I can visually see halfway, but I will I'll make a mark. But I will just do a little test. The compass is amazing. You can use it like a little measuring device. Right, so I want to see, am I really in the middle? The bottom part can be a tiny bit bigger. So I think mine is a tiny bit bigger at the bottom. So let's see. It's about half. Okay. So then draw that circle. So that's it for the circles for now. And then what happens here is that you have 8 petals and then 16 petals. And they're much thinner spaces than they were for the moon, even though the process is like the process we did together when we did the moon yantra. And what you have to do for the measuring is actually do the 8 petals first, then you do the 16. So make sure you have your circles, and then take your compass, and we're going to divide 1 section. I guess this is the 8th. We're going to divide it by 2. So you're going to come back to your bisecting method that we did earlier. Put the compass, flip it around, crisscross those marks. Take your ruler. So this is exciting, right? We're working our way into the center of this yantra, which is, I know most of you are really pretty much only interested in the center of the yantra. But this is the atmosphere. The goddess lives at the center, but there's also many goddesses living all around the edge, creating an environment, a magical environment for the goddess. So it's nice to take your time and just feel like you're cultivating your mood, a divine mood. So I'm just seeing, is that really halfway? It looks pretty good. Then I'll bring my metal point to the center. And I'll try and draw semicircles, but as you'll see, there's no room to draw the top of them. I'm just drawing within this band. And I'll go around clockwise. Typically we do everything clockwise when we're making this yantra. From the outside in. This yantra is a tiny bit different because of all these measurements you have to do. So we do a little bit of inner work first. But anyway, this is creating the mood for the goddess that lives at the center of the yantra. It's also sometimes seen as the human form. And so our feet are going to be the gates, the outer gates. So it's like you work up the body, and then the crown chakra is going to be the dot in the middle. So I have a few other videos about the layers. There's one done with a big marker, but it talks about the layers in the Sri Yantra. So maybe after watching this, you might want to go back and look at some of those other videos about the Sri and the layers. And please, please, please send me questions, even questions for other videos. teaching videos, I always do well with questions, and I can really make sure I'm helping you. Now I'm going to try to follow these lines out to the outer circle. So see, I have these semicircles, and where the semicircles touch are points. And I'm putting my ruler through these points and continuing the line into the outer circle. We're dividing evenly these circular bands. And as you can see, it's beautiful. It's very harmonious, just constructing this yantra and having all this proportion. It's like divine proportion. It's very satisfying. Brings a lot of balance to your own mind, mental well-being, and really everything, right? Starts with mental well-being. All right, so that was the first thing. Then we're going to divide this outer section one more time. So maybe I'll come here. So I have my compass like that. And then I'm going to have the crisscross experience. Up, down, crisscross. Take your pencil and ruler. We start from the center. Now I'm drawing just in the outer section. Can you see I've divided that by 2? And then we're repeating the process of doing semicircles. So first of all, I'm checking to make sure this is really half. It's always approximately half, but that looks like it's going to work. Okay. And then what happens is you're going to draw these semicircles. These almost fill the space. Depending on how many bands you do, or whether you really get that 55 number at the beginning or not. These petals can look smaller or bigger. You don't want them really to be much bigger than this, because your gaze will come away from the center. So typically in the Sri Yantra, the petals are rather thin, kind of flattened. That is to give a lot of precedence to the triangular form in the center. Sometimes it's just half, actually. Sometimes it would be like 24 and then another 24. So it would just be 48. It would not be 55. So you can experiment with that outer measurement. Maybe do some research. Once you have these markings all there, then you can draw the petals. So I'll show you a petal slowly, and then I'll show you all of them quickly. All right? Then we will be ready for the triangular centers with the 48 measurements. So I have 8 petals and I have 16 petals. All these beautiful goddesses. Let me do one of each for you. Start at the top. I like to start with the point. And then pretty much I'm going to end at that. These petals are slightly different shape to when we have a full semicircle. They're much longer, and they end with a more exact point, meeting point. See, the next one is going to be, right, coming from a point, place of a point. And then the 8th one is even thinner. And again, that will join like that for the next shape. I actually exhale when I'm doing this. So I inhale and then exhale, draw. Seems to go better with the breath. All right, so I'm going to draw all of those and then I'll erase the extra marks. Each petal does have a little seed. It's like a little center seed.